It's 3 a.m. You're awake again. Not because you forgot to send an email, not because of some family emergency, because somewhere between your paycheck hitting your account and your bills clearing, a question started echoing in your head. How did a 5-figure monthly paycheck disappear after a normal month? No yacht, no private chef, no champagne on a Tuesday, just a mortgage, a car payment, groceries, insurance, dinners out that didn't feel extravagant, and a few "you work hard, you deserve it" swipes that barely registered in the moment. And that's the part nobody warns you about. A lot of 6-figure earners are not living rich. They're living expensively. They're financial sleepwalkers, making too much money to feel poor on paper, but not enough margin to feel safe in real life. Because being broke isn't always about low income. Sometimes it's what happens when high income gets swallowed by normalized obligation. And in today's economy, that can happen fast. Bank rate. Let's start with the so-called dream, the starter home. Except in a lot of markets, the starter home isn't a stepping stone anymore. It's a financial stress simulator. Take a $500,000 house. Sounds upper middle class, right? But run the math. With 10% down, you're financing about $450,000. At roughly today's average 30-year mortgage rate, that's about $2,800 a month before you even get to the stuff nobody puts in the Instagram caption. Then come property taxes, then homeowners insurance, then maintenance, then PMEI because you didn't put 20% down, basically a poverty tax for not already being rich enough. Suddenly that reasonable house is landing around $4,100 to $4,200 a month. If your household brings in $160,000 a year, that can eat roughly 46% of take-home pay. That's not indulgence. That's not irresponsibility. That's a structural affordability crisis, wearing the costume of the American dream. Freddie Mac recently put the average 30-year fixed mortgage rate at 6.38%. Bankrate says hidden home ownership costs now average $21,400 a year, with maintenance alone averaging over $8,800 annually. Home insurance averages about $2,424 a year, and even the more conservative maintenance rule says to budget 1% to 4% of your home's value every year. So yes, the invisible costs on a $500,000 home can easily add $1,500 plus a month on top of the base mortgage, once you factor in taxes, insurance, upkeep, and PMI, Freddie Mac Bankrate State Farm. That's why so many high earners feel confused. They thought home ownership would make them feel stable, but instead it makes them feel one broken HVAC unit away from panic. Then there's the car payment trap, or more specifically, the $700 to $1,200 a month status symbol sitting in the driveway. Because somewhere along the way, people started treating massive car payments like a normal adult bill, like rent, like electricity, like this is just what life costs now if you're doing okay. But a vehicle, especially a shiny new truck, is one of the easiest ways to torch wealth while telling yourself you're winning. Kelley Blue Book says most new vehicles lose about 20% or more of their value in the first year and about 60% within 5 years. ARA says the average cost to own and operate a new vehicle is now about $11,577 a year, with depreciation as the biggest expense. So when someone finances a $55,000 truck over 7 years, they're not buying a $55,000 vehicle. They're stepping into a machine that can realistically drain $120,000 to $130,000 over its life once you count loan payments, interest, fuel, insurance, tires, repairs, and maintenance. That's not transportation. That's wealth destruction disguised as a personality trait. Kelley Blue Book. And the opportunity cost is brutal because if that $700 monthly payment got invested instead at 8%, over 40 years, it wouldn't become a nice little nest egg. It would become roughly $2.44 million. That's the part that stings. The truck isn't just costing you money now, it's costing future freedom, future options, future peace. Now let's talk about the silent killer, lifestyle inflation. Most people think they'll feel rich once they hit six figures. But in major metro areas, a high salary gets mugged by housing, taxes, insurance, childcare, commuting, and the social pressure to live like everyone around you. Bankrate found that after adjusting for cost of living, workers in expensive metros lose huge chunks of purchasing power. 15.4% in San Francisco, 13.4% in Los Angeles, 11.5% in Seattle, 11.1% in New York, and 10.6% in Miami. So yes, a six-figure income can still feel weirdly tight if your environment keeps upgrading your baseline. Bankrate. And then there's what I call the 15-second payday routine. You get paid, and before the money even clears, your brain has already spent it. $20 on delivery because you're tired. $100 dinner because it's been a long week. $1,000 phone because this one's basically broken. Subscription renewals, convenience fees, little rewards, tiny upgrades, frictionless spending, dressed up as self-care. That's why high earners often feel broke without feeling reckless. They didn't make one catastrophic decision, they made 300 invisible ones. They turned luxuries into necessities and called it normal life. And once that happens, income stops creating margin. It just feeds the machine. This is where the real divide shows up. There's the wealth pretender, designer bag, premium SUV, upgraded everything, perfect credit score, maybe even a beautiful house, and almost no real safety underneath it. No serious emergency fund, no investing discipline, no retirement momentum, just a lifestyle financed by income and polished by debt. And then there's the intentional saver. Same salary, totally different psychology. That person may drive something less impressive. They may skip the luxury apartment, keep the phone another year, say no to the social pressure, and quietly build a $20,000 safety net. Why does that number matter so much? Because it's often the first time life stops feeling like a constant emergency. It's the turning point where one car repair doesn't become a crisis. One medical bill doesn't become a credit card balance. One bad month doesn't mean panic. And once money stops leaking out through emergencies, it can finally start doing the heavy lifting through compound growth. That matters because the national picture is uglier than a lot of people realize. Recent Federal Reserve linked summaries put median retirement savings around $87,000 for households with retirement accounts, while one Fed-based finding says about 25% of non-retired adults have no retirement savings at all. USA Facts, using Survey of Consumer Finance's data, says almost half of households had no retirement account savings in 2022. So the goal is not to look secure. The goal is to stop becoming one more person with a high income and no foundation. Guardian, CNBCUSA Facts. So if you make good money and still feel broke, hear this clearly. You are not crazy. You are not lazy. And you are not alone. But you may be trapped in the black hole of mindless spending. The system where every raise gets claimed before it changes your life. The answer isn't to make more and hope. The answer is to reclaim margin. Automate savings before you see the money. Keep necessities under a threshold you can actually survive on. Something like 60% of take home if you want breathing room. Stop financing your identity. Stop confusing expensive with successful. Stop buying things that make you look rich while keeping you emotionally one paycheck from fear. Because real wealth is not the appearance of success. Real wealth is the ability to sleep. It's options. It's time. It's peace. It's a budget with air in it. It's knowing that your life doesn't collapse because one number moved the wrong way. The people who build wealth don't always look richer first. They just stop bleeding money long enough for it to finally grow. Wealth is margin. Freedom is the flex.